What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Run It Up podcast. I'm your host, Najee Adams. You know, I got my guy with me today, Khalil Baker. How you doing, bro?
Doing great, man. We're covering basketball today, so that's a little
Yeah.
weird.
Have
We
you? I
haven't.
don't know if you've been on a basketball pod
Well, we all
in
right.
a
Well,
while.
we haven't had much, so
That's a
yeah,
good
we haven't
point.
had very many. Yeah. I just to preface before we even get talking into basketball, I think I watched maybe the first month or 2 months of NBA basketball,
Hmm.
and after that, I was just completely locked into NFL. Like I could even turn on an NBA game and actually like watch it and enjoy it. So I was just locked into NFL, locked into the NFL draft. Biggest regret is we didn't even do a quarterback rankings podcast, which broke my heart.
It hurt
But
me. It hurt me.
hurt
The
it
last
broke.
one, the last episode we recorded was the receivers one, right?
Yeah, receivers went. Yeah, we just couldn't make it work with the schedule. But I was just super locked in, so I've had a lot of catching up to do, and um, there's been like some really crazy stuff going on this season. I feel like so it was a really weird season to miss, honestly.
Hmm.
Like I remember before this season, SGA talks was like not I maybe French top 10, something along that way, right outside the top 10.
Now that
Like
brother's top five.
that brother is top five
Yeah.
solidified. I'm like, what? I'm like, what happened? Like, what is going on? What did I miss? Like, I just missed so
Yeah.
much. So it was an interesting season to miss, but it looked like a fun season for the most part. I kept up with it through Twitter and stuff.
Yeah. It's hard to miss shit on Twitter nowadays. You could check your For You page. Well, I know my For You page is filled with everything sports. It's like Lakers, a little bit of like Star Wars, Marvel vibe, a little bit of like Seahawks, and then just like general football, basketball. Like
Yeah,
and the Drake and Kendrick stuff never leaves my timeline. So um,
yeah.
but
Thankfully,
yeah,
I don't
bro.
get a lot of music. Music is people are. I can't
People
do
have
other.
such rash
I
takes on
can't
Twitter.
do other people's music takes that too
No,
much. Even like the
100%.
Drake Kendrick stuff is just annoying.
It was an absolute waste of time on Twitter. And like, I hate that I got wrapped up into it because it's like, oh my God, people are just saying stuff for clicks, which I'll be honest, I do that too. Like, hey,
Yes, you
I'm
do.
all down to get some
Yes, you do.
likes, you know, I'm down to get some retweets, you feel me? But like, it's annoying being on the other side of it. Um,
And it's also your job. Like you see
I
the
do it for a
pain.
living, yeah. So
Yeah.
like, it's tough to turn it off, you know. But yeah, bro. Uh, But yeah, we haven't recorded in a while. I guess before this is going to be a full basketball pod since we are in the basketball season. But just like a little curveball, I wanted to ask you, what were your thoughts on the draft, bro? The NFL draft has come and gone a couple months ago, but we haven't talked on a pod since it's happened. So I just wanted to ask you a little recap. What'd you think of it?
Um, a little underwhelming in some ways. You probably wanted a lot more to happen with trades and just like a lot more chaos because they had that type of potential, just like mostly any other draft. When it comes down to it, sorry, someone else is here in the office, so you might hear like copy or printer
Nah,
stuff. I don't
you're
know.
chilling, gang. My fan is pounding on me. So if you hear the
Okay,
in the back, that's what it is.
that's a really weird way to say that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Nothing crazy.
But no, it was a fun draft. I thought the Titans did well. Just talking about that for the most part. Took a really good tackle at the number 7 pick. Obviously, Michael Penix, who I ended up texting you after this, had him my top 3 for quarterback rankings. Obviously, didn't think he'd go 8 to the Falcons, but that was a pretty wild pick, of course. It makes sense, but also does not make sense. But it was a good draft. I enjoyed it. What was his face? What's his face? The receiver, Texas, A.D. Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell. Yeah.
Slipped a lot. That was really surprising. But there was a lot of really good drafts for some teams. Steelers had a really good draft. They come to mind. Offensive line just completely revamped it. Colts, yeah, Chicago Bears, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
Bears pretty much won the draft. Even though they traded their franchise QB to the Steelers, and
Please
it's all
stop.
good.
Even with those
Um,
two picks, like that's a great draft. It's the first two picks. So
um, But yeah, shout out to my guy. But yeah, bro, I think the draft was cool. For the Seahawks, I liked what we did for the most part. I always feel it sucks that we didn't have a second round pick because we traded it for Leonard Williams, but it's fine. I mean, I like our little outlook coming into the season. I got us as one of like a sleeper team, kind of, just because everyone in the NFC West, everybody talks about the Rams or the Niners. I feel like we kind of get the bad end of the stick on the back end with the Cardinals. But I like us in that division. I think obviously the Niners are nice, but hey, CMC's on Madden curse. That feels like Seahawks are winning the division. So I'm excited about it. But
Y'all traded a second round pick for like a 30-year-old defensive lineman who's actually a really
we
good scheme fit and he's a very good
we traded our second round pick
inside.
for Leonard Williams, and he was a free agent this offseason. So we paid him pretty much whatever he wanted to come back, and now
It was,
now he is indeed back.
it's wild. Great pick. I mean, it's good for what McDonald will probably want to do with that defense, and you guys had trouble on the defensive line anyway, so it makes sense. But also, like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I never loved trading second round picks, period, unless it's for like actual. And I'm not. That's not to say that Leonard Williams can't impact the game and an impact like in a massive way on the defensive end. But I'll be honest, I'm an offensive guy, so I'd like to trade second round picks for guys that score touchdowns. So that's kind of how I feel about it. But I mean, it's whatever. We drafted Byron Murphy, so now hopefully they can form a little nice little two-headed monster down there, in the trenches. But I'm with it. I'm excited to see what we do this offseason. I have big high hopes for JSN. I was down to move on from Tyler Lockett, but we ended up not doing it. But whatever. I'm excited for the Ryan Grubb offense. But yeah, that's our little NFL spiel. Before we get into NBA stuff, make sure you guys subscribe to the pod. Basically, everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at the Run It Up Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Najee Adams _ Khalil at below 44 and Justice at J Reed _ if that isn't what it is, it'll be all in the description down below. So don't worry about it. Leave a 5-star rating and review everywhere that you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the pod, drop a comment, like, share, send to your family and friends. We love to see it. And yeah, without further ado, before we get into stuff, song of the week. Go ahead and start us off. My song of the week was an easy pick this episode. I've really been listening to one song on rotation for I want to say like the last month and a half. And it is Love Me JJ by Thames. It was a single she released. I feel like it didn't really get a lot of traction, but I got put onto it and it's amazing. So please go check that out. And yeah, what is your song of the week, bro?
yeah, we love Tim's, man. My
Yeah.
song of the week is
Hey.
Kaylani song.
Ooh.
Sorry, I dropped my phone. I picked Kaylani, and it is After Hours Cater to You mix. So
Okay.
yeah, has a Destiny's Child Cater to You beat going on, and then she has her own little song that she twisted up into it. So
Beautiful.
it's a really good song.
Kaylani shit is fire. I haven't listened to
Yeah,
Kaylani song in a while, but like I went through a little Kaylani stretch, so I'm down there to get back into it, honestly.
yeah, she's tough.
But yeah, diving into NBA stuff. Obviously, we are 3 games through the NBA finals as we are recording this on the day that it drops, which will be tomorrow. Game 4 starts. So we might be seeing a sweep.
Oh
um,
man,
but I hope not. That would be great if it wasn't because I work tomorrow night and having to deal with the end of finals stuff on social is a lot harder than having to not do that. So I would rather the Mavs win tomorrow, just to make my life easier. I would have rather they won yesterday, but hey, what it is what it is. But before we get into like our takeaways, we're gonna talk to our top 3 takeaways of the playoffs thus far. What was your pick for the finals coming into it?
uh, I saw your tweet last night. You said anyone that had the Mavericks is delusional,
Oh,
and
I know you had the Mavs, didn't you?
you're correct though. You're correct. I even going into it, like I know what I kind of had an idea what type of team the Celtics were, but I was also just like, I just want to see Luka go crazy. I want Kyrie to have some type to finish that redemption arc he has going on right now, and I want the Mavs to win it. And I didn't want the Celtics to win even then too. Like I just sometimes the Celtics really annoy me and fan
Mhm.
base annoys me, so I was really pulling for the Mavericks going into it. I thought they had a great story. Really showed up in some big spots, and what Luka has been doing. It's just huge. So seeing him finally get into the finals was crazy. For where he is in his career so far. So I picked the Mavs. I picked the Mavs in 7.
Ooh, okay. Hey, it's not out. We could still get there.
We could.
We
We
could
could.
still get there. I have I picked Celtics in six. I thought the Mavs would win game three 100%. The 3-0 kind of kills you. I figured if the Mavs had any chance, it was because they have the best player in the series in Luka, and that typically does something for you. I would be pretty shocked if they got swept. I'll be honest. Like, I think they get the Heat got a game, like I think at least the Pacers of, I mean, the Celtics are what 15-2 in this playoff run, and so like they've looked vulnerable at times, but for the most part, I think that a sweep would be crazy. So I said Celtics in six. I think it probably ends in five, if I'm being honest. But they have yet to lose on the road all postseason. Like, this is one of the most historic postseasons we've ever seen. 15-2, 7-0 on the road is crazy.
Yeah, no one probably wants to talk about it just because it's the Celtics, but and there's a lot of like different narratives going on with the team that people just really probably don't want to support them and give them their props, but no, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, bro. I root against them too. Like, right. Like, I'm a Lakers fan, so like we are tied at 17 chips. So I don't want them to get 18. It took us a little while to catch up. Granted, the Celtics won 95% of their championships when there were four teams in the league and they were playing against plumbers, but like they 17 regardless. So this is gonna get them to 18, which is gonna suck. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't really love this Celtics getting a chip, but also like it's tough for me because like I'm a Jayson Tatum fan, definitely one of my top five players. And I think he gets a lot of slander. Some of it warranted, some of it not so much. But yeah, I'm gonna be excited to see him win his little chip, but it's gonna sting that it's with the Celtics, honestly.
Yeah,
I did want to ask you though, you're a LeBron fan, correct?
absolutely.
So, considering that he is a free agent this offseason, I think he returns to the Lakers. But if he was to go somewhere else, would you then be a fan? Like, let's say he went to the Sixers because they have the bag. Would you be a Sixers fan?
Somehow, yeah, I guess.
Wow.
I'd
We
have to
haven't
pull
we
together.
haven't converted you. I
I'm
feel
not,
like
bro. I'm
he's
not like
been
a. I
here for
don't.
a while.
I'm not like I haven't been like a fan of a team, even if I follow LeBron since like probably the Cavs.
Mhm.
I guess it stopped with the with the Lakers,
No,
but
you're a fan of the Lakers. Come on. You're
no,
invested. You're invested.
I'm invested, but it's like not the way you and Justice are invested. Not at all. Like not even close.
That's fair.
Like you guys are at 100%. I might be at like 20. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe less. Like of course, like I want the Lakers to do well. Um, I get upset sometimes, maybe, but at the end of the day, I'm a LeBron fan.
Mhm.
So I go where he goes. So if he's the Sixers, I would somehow root for them for a year or two.
Wow, that's a good philosophy you got right there.
I don't see how I
I
could just convert to a Lakers fan. I just don't have that in me.
That's fair. I
I
I
used to hate
respect
the
that.
Lakers.
That takes a lot of respect to be like I'm going where LeBron goes. I refuse to just be a Lakers fan.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, people would say the opposite, but all right.
I think most people don't like. I think most people would expect you to just be like a fan of a team, which is like I'm a fan of players, but like I if the Lakers were 1-81, I would still be a Lakers fan. Like I gotta go down with the ship.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know why I've just never been that way. Like I've always gravitated towards players when it came to the NBA. Like I used to be a huge Paul Pierce fan at some point. I
Mm,
love Paul Pierce. Obviously, everyone was a fan of Allen Iverson growing up. Like the I wore the finger straps when I was playing
that's
little league
fire. That's
basketball.
fire.
I was a Allen Iverson fan. So like I always gravitated towards players, and ever since LeBron came into the league, that's who I gravitated towards. Had his trading cards, had his jerseys. Always watched him. Like that was just my guy, and it just has always been that way. And of course, I have different players I like in the league right now, but I've just never been able to find a team.
But for the NFL, you're locked with the Titans, right?
I still gravitate towards some players when it comes to NFL, but I'm like a Titans fan for sure.
That's
Um,
fire.
yeah, I started off when I was in Little League. I played for the Steelers for a year, and I was
Mm-hmm.
a fan for them. And then my second team was the Titans, and somehow that just stuck more than anything else. And I just grew up a Titans fan from there.
That's amazing. I love a good Titans. You're my only Titans fan friend, so it's good to be. I love to have a diversified fan base friend group. Like
Yeah,
I like to
pick.
see the pain on my timeline from every fan base. Like the Titans did something stupid, I want to see about it. The Panthers did something stupid, I want to see about it. When the
Uh,
Seahawks do dumb shit, you're gonna see about it from me. So I
yeah.
just love. I got some Giants fans, I got some Packers fans, I got a Falcons fan. So it's great. But yeah, so diving into it, we've taken a lot of work to get here, but diving into our NBA takeaways, top three takeaways from the NBA playoffs thus far. I'll start with you, Khalil. What have you seen so far in the playoffs?
You want to go one, one, two, one? You want to do all
Yeah, we
three
could go
right
one,
now?
one, 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 one.
Okay, okay, cool. I actually wrote down six just because I couldn't choose. Or actually,
That's because
uh,
I'd be underprepared, so
yeah.
you came over prepared.
I wrote down seven just in case I'll pick from the list and just see what I like the most going off the
Mm-hmm.
vibes. But I do like my number one I wrote down, just because I feel like it's a good talking point, and they're also in the finals right now. I've been in the past been really hard on Boston. I feel like, they've had their moments of like really, not playing up to that level. Remember last year that traded Marcus Smart, and I actually love that trade. I thought it was a great trade. People talked about how he's like the heart and soul of the team, but like you look at where they've gotten to, like what have they done with him being the heart and soul of the team? They got destroyed by the Warriors and they lost to the freaking Miami Heat last year. Like, what has that done for them? And he, was getting older and had injury concern. Getting off the Marcus Smart topic, but I feel like the Celtics team is not the same Celtics team that we've seen in the past few years. Even in this playoffs, we have a group message on Twitter, with a few other guys, and there's some Celtics fans in there, and I'll like to troll with them a lot. So I'll like say, same old Celtics or anything like that. Celtics suck, something like that. So kind of just expecting them to, fold in a lot of moments or always give up a game to a team where they like just poop the bed completely. It's like I was like really expecting that to happen, especially in a game against the Oregon Series against the Mavs when you have a player like Luka, as the best player for the Mavs. So just seeing what we've seen from them recently, I feel like they've really reached this level of mental toughness. A lot of their younger guys like a Jaylen Brown has really stepped up. Drew Holiday was a huge addition to the team, just providing an element of toughness and keeping guys accountable and bringing this energy that just wasn't. Of course, Marcus Smart brought an energy there, but really Drew Holiday brings us such a versatile energy, and even then he's shown that he could be a number two, number three guy on a championship winning team. So like that's huge for a team like
Mm-hmm.
Boston trying to get over the hump. And you got Derek White elevating his game. You brought in KP, who's been hurt obviously, but still, opening everything up and really unlocking the Celtics. So, they've really improved, and I'm actually quite impressed with it. So here, just giving them their flowers. Joe Maz, doing a great job, and um, really improving as a coach, being thrown into a really difficult situation for any coach, but also a guy who's never. I mean, he wasn't even one of the lead assistants, if I'm not mistaken, or anything like that. I don't think, but he was on the second row of the bench when he was coaching as
I
an
believe
assistant
so.
coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's really impressive. Brad Stevenson's done a great job. It's really cool to see what they've done, and the level they're getting to as a team, because it's a team that we talked about in the group message. What they're doing cannot really be replicated very easily at all. Like it's just they have a bunch of players who can do everything, super versatile, defend, shoot the ball, get to the rim, drive and kick. They have some closers on the team. They have everything you want pretty much in a championship winning team. So they really impressed me, and I will give them their credit.
No, I'm with you. I think they've built like what the modern day super team will probably look like, in that like they have two guys who are going to be max players. Obviously, Jaylen Brown has the richest contract in NBA history. Jayson Tatum is eligible to sign that this offseason. His is like 325. So he'll probably be the richest man in NBA history this summer. And so they'll have those two on the books. And then like they'll still have Drew next season. They'll still have Kristaps next season. I think Brad Stevens like did an incredible job looking at the roster from last year and being like, okay, I know Marcus Smart has been a part of this team's culture, but I'm betting that we can still carry this on without him, right? Like dynasty starts after you kind of player. Ships Marcus Smart out, chooses between Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White, ships Malcolm Brogdon to the Trailblazers. Derek White ends up being incredible. He gets Robert Williams out of there, ships him out, gives more minutes to Peyton Pritchard. Al Horford kind of takes a little bit of a backseat to it, and they just kind of he's just put together a monster of a team that just has they trade for Xavier Tillman at the deadline,
who had great minutes last night. Like anytime he got on Luka, like great defense. It's just crazy.
And that's why he was executive of the year. Like Brad Stevens was incredible. And like being a guy that came from college, coached the Celtics, obviously didn't get a chip with them, but like found success, goes to the front office and just builds this mega team. It's just like massive props to him. And yeah, I think the Celtics are moving forward. Like they are going to be like, I don't want to say they're a dynasty, right? But like they have a chance to be. And that's where I struggle, right? Because like I thought the Nuggets were going to be this like dynasty team. And it's just so hard to make it back. Like I do think we got spoiled by the LeBron 10 straight finals, the Warriors back to back to back to back, where it's like now the Nuggets were as solid of a team as you saw last season. They come into this season, they win 50 something games, they blow us out in the first round, and then they don't even make the Western Conference Finals. And it's like that's crazy coming off a season where you looked so dominant last year. And so like for me, I feel like it's tough to say the Celtics are going to be this dynasty, but like they very well could be. Like they have a lot going for them, and that they're going to bring back the majority of this team next season. They have, and like it's not even like they're strapped for draft picks or anything like that. They have. I was looking it up earlier, including their 2024 pick. They can trade 4 firsts this offseason, and they can trade their 2026 first, and they have 5 second-round picks. Like they still have a lot of ways to get better. Like and so like having Brad Stevens, like I trust him to be able to look at what they need and be able to build it out. And so yeah, I'm excited for what the Celtics. Well, not excited because like I'm a Lakers fan and I wish nothing but pain on them, but like I respect what they've been able to build, especially in the new modern NBA with the new CBA and how tough it is to kind of maintain a team. I think they're in a great position to do so. And that kind of brings me to my second takeaway. Well, my first takeaway would be that like the league for me is more wide open than it's ever been, right? Like when we look at I was looking at the NBA standings, and I don't think there was any joke. Like the Celtics were a juggernaut team. Don't get me wrong. Like 64-18, 15-2 in the playoffs. They were by all accounts a super mega incredible favorite to win. And like they've proved that. But like outside of the Celtics, you look at the landscape of the league, like the Thunder, like I don't know if they're set up for success, but like they're not this mega team. The Nuggets obviously have their issues. The Wolves have their issues. The Clippers can't stay healthy. The Mavs, they won 50 games, but like we see they're not necessarily ready yet. The Suns, the Lakers, the Pelicans, the Kings, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, the Spurs, like all teams that will be competing next season. And then in the East, you have the Celtics as this monster team. Also, I love the Knicks and what they're building. The Bucks will have Giannis and Dame. You can't count them out. I love the Magic. The Cavs will always be there. The Pacers made the Eastern Conference Finals. The Sixers will have Embiid and Maxey. Like there's just so much parity in the league, and like so much like the days of one team just dominating is I feel like over for the most part. And don't get me wrong, like the Celtics very well could go on to win 2-3 straight, but like I just don't necessarily see it happening just because there's just so much talent now. And like it comes down to what team ultimately stays the healthiest. And I think you see that in the road that the Celtics took. Obviously, they didn't face Jimmy Butler. They didn't face Julius Randle. Jalen Brunson got hurt. Oh, that was the Pacers. They didn't face Tyrese Halliburton. Donovan Mitchell got hurt for the last 2 games. So like it's a lot kind of played into that. But overall, I just feel like the league is in such a good place. And like being a Lakers fan, that sucks because like our superstars are pretty old, but like being an NBA fan, I think it's never been a better time to get into basketball and like really fall in love with the league, because there is just on a night to night basis, there's so much parity within the league. Like gone are the days where on a random Tuesday night, you wouldn't want to turn on League Pass because like 8 of the 10 games on, probably 9 of the 10 games on are going to be good games with like superstar level players playing. Which is the good thing about what the CBA did, is that like a lot of players are staying where they were drafted and like not asking out. Where it's in the past, like players are coming to LA, players are coming to New York, players are going to, these massive Miami, these massive markets. But I think a lot of teams are able to, home grow their guys and get to the bag. When you look at a team like Denver, all of those guys are homegrown outside of what, KCP and Aaron Gordon. But they're big three for the most part of guys that they drafted and developed. So yeah, I just think the league is in a really good spot.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, just because, you know, the league is so wide open, and I think that is a thing that can really encourage some, bigger moves that happen even going forward. Like, hey, this is wide open. Like, why shouldn't I go get this player? Why shouldn't I look to improve my team in this way? Why shouldn't I be aggressive? You mentioned teams like a Magic or Oklahoma City Thunder, who can, have the assets to make those moves and actually improve and get to a better spot, where they actually showed some good stuff in the playoffs. Maybe not the Magic so much, but they still have some stuff to hang their hat on. So I think the league is in a really good spot. Going back to what you said, and there's a lot to hang your hat on, and even if you're into the NBA a lot, you have the league pass. You can really find a few games on, and in any given night that you really want to watch, and find some players that you really like, or whether it's your team or not, really enjoy some good basketball. So I think the league is a good spot. A lot of stuff is wide open, even in the a weaker Eastern Conference and a really stronger Western Conference. They're wide open for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Any given year things can change. We saw you talked about how you thought the Nuggets were going to be like a dynasty team, and they find their match in a second year Timberwolves team that is a really tough matchup for them.
Yeah.
And so it's all about matchups. It's all about how you can adapt from year to year. And we saw some really good teams figure out ways to do that and really improve in the trade deadline and in the offseason to get to a better spot, like the Mavs and the Celtics.
Yeah, and that was guys that made, and like even the teams we saw in the finals, they made deadline moves, right? Like the Celtics were dominant the entire season. That they did not stop by going and getting Xavier Tillman. The Mavs changed their damn near whole roster around at the deadline, and they got them to the finals. And like I think that is like what the league is about, like being able to go for it and like seeing even in the East, like and it didn't work out, but like a team like the Hawks, they went for it. They tried, like they went and got DeJounte Murray. They tried to build something. They went and hired Quinn Snyder, tried to build something around Trae Young. It didn't end up working out, but like I respect that they went for it, and so yeah, that I'll kind of just rattle off my second takeaway would be that speaking of, it's not a great transition, but I think what I realized is that, people hate Rudy Gobert a lot more than I thought. I think that, people despise that man. And like, granted, for DPOY, like when we look back at like NBA history and you're like, wow, Rudy Gobert won 4 DPOYs. Was this like when my kids ask me, like, Dad, this Rudy Gobert guy, he won 4 DPOYs. He had to be elite, right? I would be like, elite. I don't know if I'd say that much, but like elite rim protector, yeah. Elite defender, probably not. And so, like, I just think that people despise Rudy Gobert, and like, I want to give him another guy. I want to give his flowers. Like, he was elite defensively this season in terms of like what they asked him to do. They weren't asking him to come out in space and guard guards, And so, like, when that gets exposed in the playoffs, it's like, oh my God, every year we get to this, like, that's just not his strength. But in the context of like, hey, we need you to stand in the paint and defend and block shots and just be a brick wall down there, he was really good. And I think for people to rag on him for like Jokic cooking is like, okay, Jokic is going to cook everybody, right? So like, I was looking this up, and I think most people would agree that the top 3 bigs in the league defensively, Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, right? Like I said 4, but I think those are like the consensus best 4 defensive bigs in the league. We saw what he did to Gobert. Jokic gave AD, he averaged 34, 10, and 8 versus Wemby, and he dominated AD in last 2 playoffs in a row. He played Rudy Gobert 2 playoffs in a row, and he played Bam in the finals. And we saw what happened. Like, there's just not a lot that you can do versus Jokic. So, like, to judge Rudy Gobert on the fact that he's not able to just lock down Nikola Jokic or just guard Luka at the top of the key, it's like, okay, we know, but like nobody's gonna be able to do that. So for as much shit as Rudy Gobert gets, I think that a lot of it is unwarranted. Another guy that I think people just love to hate on. But I'm here to give Rudy Gobert his flowers. He was an elite rim protector this season. Do I think he'll ever win another DPOI again in life? No. I think the narrative is pretty cooked. But it's a great thing because Wemby's gonna win like the next 5, so we're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my second takeaway.
Yeah, one of the wild things about that is, what do you want him to do against Luka in space? Like,
why would you switch? Why would you switch?
Why would you switch? One thing, but also like I'm talking from the perspective of, why are fans getting so upset about Rudy Gobert not being able to guard Luka in space? Like, what do you expect him to do? There are a lot of guards out there who can't guard Luka in space. So what do you expect Rudy Gobert to do? Now, of course, like this is like one of the hardest times to be a big in this era, just because of like all the space that's out there, all the switching that happens. Like it's tough, and how skilled guards are and forwards are. Just basketball players and what they can do. So like I don't understand what I get the Jokic stuff. That makes some sense, even though no one can guard Jokic really even at that point, or make it difficult for him consistently.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what people expect at that point. It just kind of just seems stupid, and just people wanted to, rag on Rudy. What is he supposed to do? What do you? It's his team's fault for putting him in that position.
Exactly.
Honestly.
I'm excited. This is a totally different tangent, but I'm excited to watch the basketball Olympics this season because there's going to be so many. Like France has Gobert and Wemby. Like, oh, good luck. Like that's gonna be. They're gonna smoke 90% of the teams. So that's gonna be sick. But yeah, what's your second takeaway, bro?
Side note: the Mavericks were so poorly coached that series. Looking back on it, like
absolutely the Timberwolves or the Mavs.
The Timberwolves, sorry, yeah, that's a Timberwolves.
You said Mavs.
Oh, Timberwolves. They were so outcoached and just
their man tore his Achilles. He was on the spot.
Bro, I don't know what they were doing. You wanted that. You wanted the assistant coach.
I wanted my son Mike Nori. Instead, we got JJ Redick. So
I can't wait. I can't wait. Even like going into the series, I'm like, I would understand putting McDaniels on Luka for a little bit, but like if it's not working, please switch it. I
just don't know why in the last possession, like what Luka's trying to get to here, right? Like he's trying to get the switch. You were up by 2. I would rather if like Luka blows by the switch and he gets a 2, cool. Like I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna live and die by what Jaden McDaniels does on defense in that possession, and I'm okay with that. But letting Luke would have even blitzed him as he caught the ball. Like leave PJ Washington open. I don't care. But like anyone but Luka is taking this shot. I'm sorry. Let him throw a lob to Derek Lively for to go to OT. But like I'm not losing all 3 right there.
Yeah, and it's somewhat of a tougher matchup it is a tougher matchup for the Timberwolves compared to the Nuggets. But then also it's like, they have guys that can guard though, and the guys that can be effective, and they have Anthony Edwards, you got Nah, you got McDaniels,
Kyle Anderson.
You got Kyle Anderson who fared well. Nasri can throw a little bit in there and help out. So it's just weird, it just came down to poor coaching. They looked ill prepared sometimes. Karl Anthony Towns was terrible, and Edwards was just not ready for the moment, basically.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. I forgot about this.
All right, for my second takeaway.
What happened to your friends?
My second takeaway, Luka has another level to get to. This finals has really, I feel like, exposed that. And, we always see all the memes about him, like, they're at a break or at the free throw line or something like that. And he's bending down and he's smiling at, Kawhi Leonard or Devin
Devin
Booker or something,
Booker and
or Ant
Edwards.
Edwards. Like,
Yeah.
like those are great memes. But if you think about it, before those moments, like he had this, he struggled to get to those moments. Besides the Suns in that sense, but like now he's going up against a Boston team, and we're not seeing any of those moments. And honestly, we're seeing a lot of poor moments out of Luka. When it comes to his attitude and barking at the refs and just really like harping on those type of things, and to the point where like he's giving up points. He's giving up those possessions because he's like not getting back on defense. He's barking. He's trying to draw fouls. He's falling on the ground. Like at that point, you're just making it difficult on your team being the leading guy. That's already struggling. You're already down at this point just because the Boston's such a good team. So like you just making it more difficult on yourselves at that point. And then also, I just feel like getting in shape and staying in shape. I feel like we've gotten to this point, at least 3 years in a row, where he's not healthy towards the end of the season, and he's not in great shape at the end of the season, and he's dealing with knee problems, foot problems, whatever, ankle problems, whatever the case is. So it's just feel like it's always been something. So I feel like him really needing to prioritize his health. Like he looks like a chubby kid out there sometimes. Like
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but that's just what he looks like. Of course, he's not in the shape he used to be when he's younger. He doesn't have the same body type that way. But I feel like he needs to get to another level to really be able to elevate his teams in moments like these when it's like he's going up against a team that is just too good at
Yeah.
this point, and the stats prove it, and the record proves it. So I just feel like Luka has another level to get to, and of course he can get there. I just think there just has to be, he just has to make some adjustments in how he plays the game, how he views the game, and really how he takes care of himself.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Luka has another level to get to. I think offensively, I don't know how much better he can get. Like, I think he can get a little bit more efficient, but like defensively and just like caring about that side of the ball. Like, if you don't have the physical attributes to guard, I understand that. But like there's possessions where he just doesn't try. And like the
Yeah,
Celtics are actively taking advantage of that. Like you can't, they're a team, like you can get away with hiding him on a Nickeil Alexander Walker, right? Like if they're not going to let Nickeil Alexander Walker beat you, they're just not like the Wolves are going to take the ball out of his hands eventually. But like the Celtics have five
he
great
can't
offensive
he
guys.
can't
Like you
hide.
can't, like there's just no one. And like when you play good teams, that gets exposed, and that's what you're doing now. Like who are you gonna hide him on? You're not hiding him on a big. You're not hiding him on Derek White. You're not hiding him on Drew Holiday. You're obviously not hiding him on one of the Jays. You can't even hide him on Payne Pritchard. So it's like, what do we do? You like to just be an absolute cone on that side of the ball just isn't gonna work.
Yeah. And of
And so
course,
like
like you got to factor in, like, yeah. Also, he's not healthy, so it's gonna look a lot worse. But why is he not healthy, and why does this keep happening? And like, how can we avoid this? How can we do better? And injuries are gonna happen, but he is a solidified top 5 player himself, and he has to, to get to a championship level, he has to, put himself at a different level. And he's improved so much, and I think he's adjusted his game to play with guys like Kyrie and allow him to, have some ownership of the team, but he just has to, take some more strides.
yeah, I agree. And like that's not to say that I think especially on like NBA Twitter, a lot of people tend to get overreactive to stuff like this and like, oh, Luka's cooked and da da da. Like Luka's okay, right? Like he'll be fine, like just because he's 25 years old, bro. Like he's
Yes.
going to play another decade in the league, right? Like it's okay if you don't win your first finals, right? Like LeBron lost his first finals, KD lost his first finals, hell, Tatum lost his first finals, and so like they get back. It's a and like saying he'll be back is like a hard thing to say because sometimes you don't get back. Like you look at a guy like Giannis, the Bucks they win 2 years ago. They look like they're set up to be this not dynasty, but like this perennial finals team for years to come, and like they don't get back. And Giannis they have back-to-back first-round exits, and like that's tough. So to say like Luka will get back is tough to just assume because like if Giannis didn't get back, then I don't know. But like
Yeah.
you would assume that both of them in their careers will touch another finals. And like I think Luka learns from this, right? Like Tatum gets to the finals 2 years ago and they lose in 6 to a Warriors team that was just better than them and had been there before and knew what it was like to sustain for 16 games of winning. And like Luka and Kyrie's been through this. Luka has never been through this before. And so, like, I think something does go to like that experience factor, and that when he gets back here next time, he'll know how to conduct himself, and he'll know that in the first round, you don't necessarily need to exert all your energy to get, because you're trying to get to 16. You're not trying to get to 7. So, and like the Celtics knew that. And like, granted, the Celtics are this massive team. I'm trying to think of like a historical thing to compare it to. I was thinking of that Thunder team versus the Heat, but like they were like a young dynasty. I don't really know that. Like they had Harden, Russ, KD. I don't think the Mavs were that. I also don't think it's like the Heat losing to the Mavs, because I wouldn't say that the Mavs were the favorites in this series. So like I can't even think of a necessary comp for it, but I just feel like Luka will be okay. That's not to say that he doesn't need to develop. Like he still needs to get better. But I think that in the way that people discuss it, at least on Twitter, it's like one or the other. Like Luka's either horrible or he's the greatest player ever, when like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that my last takeaway, which obviously great, this is a great little segue, but my last takeaway was that I really do feel like a new era of basketball is here, in that like our old players just don't necessarily, like they haven't really, we saw this postseason, LeBron was a first round exit, KD got swept, Steph Curry didn't make the playoffs, Kawhi pretty much missed the playoffs, but they were a first round exit. Giannis, first round exit. Jimmy Butler, first round exit. Like typical perennial playoff finals guys that we like grew up with. You look at Harden, another first round exit. Guys that we grew up with, just it's they're just kind of aging out of it. You look at a team like the Thunder, their average age was 23.8. The Pacers, a young team. The Wolves, a young team. The Knicks, a young team. The Heat, they lost 4-1. They're not really, a young team, but like they put up a fight a little bit. This like that just that's kind of where it breaks, honestly. Like that Heat, Suns, Sixers, Warriors, Bucks, like those are all older teams. And so like I just think the landscape of the league is changing a bit. And like I guess this is how other people felt when like we left that kind of like Jordan era to the Kobe era to the Bron era. And like now I don't really know what superstar
I
will
don't know what's
make
going
it
on. Yeah.
their era, but like it is kind of like a new team, like a new youth movement going on in the league is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's weird. Like we don't have, of course, like you have your Giannis and your Jokic's, but like for whatever reason that just hasn't stuck. Of course they've been the best player in the league for whatever, however many years in a row, or every other year, whatever it looks like. But it's been weird. I don't know what kind of era this is. 2K
Yeah.
coins as a modern era, and there's just so much parity as you come down to it, and things change every other year. We got to this point where SGA is a top 5 player, like solidified top 5 player, and no one saw that coming. No
Yeah.
one, picked that, to be a thing. And Edwards really showed up big in some huge spots during the playoffs. And, maybe he can, put himself in that conversation next year as he takes a leap. So it's just such an interesting time in the NBA. It's a really fun time. And there is a lot changing when it comes down to it. And those older guys are, it's getting sad. I said me
Yeah, it's a
watching
little bit
LeBron in
sad, bro.
person. Yeah. So yeah, it's just weird.
Oh, I saw him. I've been to the last 2 times he came to New York. I went to both Garden games this year and last year. I didn't go. There's obviously only one game. I mean, but like I went to the last 2 years of him playing in the Garden.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, bro. I don't know. I think the league is looking for a new face of the league, and like people thought it was Jokic, and then they lost in the first round. People thought it was Giannis, back-to-back first-round exits. It was a little too early for Ant. Luka, I can't really give it to a guy that doesn't win the finals. Tatum, you're not going to really give it to a guy that doesn't win finals MVP. Jaylen Brown, most people don't think he's the best player on the team. So it's like, I
It's
don't,
like where
yeah,
do we
where do
go?
we go? Yeah. So it's tough. But yeah, bro, that was my last takeaway. I know you got like 4 more, so you're good to just rattle and go for it.
I'm only going to stick with one probably, but you just mentioned his name, and all I wrote down it was all I wrote down was Tatum. That's all I wrote down. Um, I felt this way. I've had talks like this with Justice for a while. I think even before the finals started, we were texting and we were talking about what we wanted out of this finals, and I was like, I want the Mavs to win, And, I want Luka to have a masterclass. I want, Kyrie to go crazy. And he was like, I don't think he ever gave me a winner, but he was like, I want Tatum and Luka to go back and forth. Like, I want Tatum to have that moment. And I we just haven't had that moment, from Tatum.
Mhm.
Even, throughout all the playoffs, he's had some really good moments. But as far as like, being the guy on that team and, taking the reins like you would want him to, just hasn't really come to fruition in that type of way. We go down to it like, yeah, like he is the best player on his team, but there's also times where it's like, is he the best player on his team?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. I think a
there's
lot of conversations are going to come after Jaylen Brown gets his Finals
yeah.
MVP.
Yeah, like he just got his conference finals MVP. And now after, he didn't have a great first half in game 3, like at all. Like Tatum, I can't remember how much Tatum had in the first half, but he had a really good first half. I think he had like 13 in the first quarter, maybe like I think he like had
I think he
15
had
or
18 and a half or something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So like Tatum had a great first half and it was like, oh, this is looking good. He's still like settling for side step threes sometimes, but like it's looking
Yeah,
good. It's nice. There's the quote he had when they went to the huddle, like, the mic'd up
hmm
type of stuff. He had the quote and he said he said to his team in the huddle, we gotta stop settling for step back threes. He said that to his team in the
Hey,
huddle. And
brother.
now of course he's like, I like that's for me for sure, like absolutely. But like I feel like you should just keep that to yourself because I don't think
Yeah,
there's anyone else that is
yeah. I don't
doing it.
see Drew Holiday taking step back threes.
No, like I think you're the only one that's doing that. I don't
Yeah.
think you need to be saying that out loud, which is just crazy. Great for him to be aware, but like don't bring your team into that when it's mostly really just you at that
hmm
point. But it's just like, I guess things like that, and JB having a huge second half. I think he had 15 in the third, and he ended up having 9 fourth quarter points. So like he was like on it, man, and he hit some really tough shots. He hit some really big shots. Tatum was in the corner just chilling, while JB took the reins. And of course he struggled some, but like JB's really, I think, come to his own and really brings the mentality you want in an alpha dog, number one type of guy. The play is not always there. The playmaking maybe not always there. But he really brings that mentality and he makes a lot of huge shots and he's done that throughout all the playoffs. So like I guess the big point in like why I wrote down Tatum. So I listen to a lot of Bill Simmons podcasts, love it. Every Sunday, Bill Simmons and Ron Russillo does their podcast, and that is like my favorite thing of the week is to listen to
I
them
love
Monday
that.
morning. I love that podcast so much. Love those
But
guys.
first,
They're
Pearl Jam.
huh Pro Jam. Yeah. So it's just like I love that podcast so much. And they have a lot of good talking points. Of course, Bill Simmons is biased sometimes. He has stuff to say about Lakers. He always finds a way to like subtly jab uh LeBron James, and I hate that, but it's whatever. He's entertaining and he's good at what he does. But they had or I think Russillo had a great question on Sunday. He talked about, or maybe Bill Simmons asked him, do you think Tatum is all the way there? Like, is this like who he is? He's what? He's 26 years old at
Yeah,
this
he's
point. Like,
26.
is this who he is, or like does he still have another lead to take or a level to get to in this way? I think and I think Russillo said that this is pretty much who he is at this point. What we've seen so far, where he is, where his team looks like, roster construction, which has a lot to do with it as well. Like, this is who he is. As soon as he got into the league, like the Celtics were in positions to, win and they were getting far in the
Yeah, they've
playoffs.
made the
They're
playoffs every
yeah.
year of his
So like
career.
he didn't have to like he of course didn't make it all the time, but like he didn't really have to struggle that much. Like he wasn't like they weren't like that bad far off.
Yeah,
They had some years, of course, but like, you know, and then I think Bill Simmons, like he has another way to go. It's like 85%, like this is 85% of what Tatum will be, or like this is 90% of what Tatum will be. So like me personally, I think this is who Tatum is at this point.
hmm
Of course, it's still a top 6, top 7 player in the NBA, which is not
yeah, yeah.
bad at
Not
all.
bad.
It's not
You're
bad at
good.
all. So like, what am I talking about? But also it's just like for the expectations and who he thought he would be and the potential and really reaching at and like having some of those really special playoff moments that you want to have in a top 6, 5, 7
hmm
NBA guy. Like we just haven't had those, and there's been times where the second guy on this team has really shown up and seem to be that type of player. Or like Drew Holiday has an argument for in conference finals MVP and finals MVP. So it's just like it's just weird. So I don't know. Of course, he's still young, 26 years old. He does have some other things to improve on, but in the grand scheme of things, I think this is really just who he is and who he's gonna
And
be.
for me, I think, and I was thinking about the finals MVP thing, right? And like, as much as Tatum says, like, oh, it doesn't bother me that Jaylen Brown gets it, I think like that's easy to say. I, but like to spend an entire season where you felt like you're the best player on the team, you get to the finals, and like he gets the finals MVP, I think that will motivate him to be like, all right, I need to create some sort of a gap here that this doesn't happen again. And like, I was thinking, like, what has there ever been a player on all NBA first team? Because Tatum was on all NBA first team
Right.
that didn't win the MVP when his team went to the finals. And like, I think and someone had said, like, obviously Kobe and Shaq. Shaq won the two finals MVPs when they went to the chip. But Kobe was also on all NBA first team. Like, he was on all NBA teams those years. And I think the important context is Jaylen Brown was on no all NBA teams. And
Yeah.
so, like, to get to the finals and then be like, yep, Jaylen Brown, finals MVP, so conference finals MVP is a tough look for like when we look back on what the Celtics team's legacy ends up being. I do think that people will hold that against Tatum. Like, people held I think Steph Curry's top 10 all time. People held he doesn't have a finals MVP against him up until 2 years ago. So right. Like, I think that does factor into like when people talk legacy. And so yeah, I think that'll be a tough one. I think in terms of like where Tatum has to improve, I don't know that I would say like I think this is who he is, because I think that there is a mentality switch that needs to happen to be like, I think some of the settling for threes is what the Celtics want to do. Like, I think they just want to shoot a lot of threes because the math works out that way.
Yeah,
But
they want to
then
shoot a
again,
lot of threes, but he's like, these aren't like he's not like
they're
a
not
super
good
efficient three, and
shots.
they're not
Yeah,
great shot.
So
Like it's
like,
different if it's like if you're James Harden doing this back when he
yeah.
was with the Houston Rockets, but like he just hasn't been that type of
No.
3-point shooter
And so I
for the
think that
past
there
couple of
is a
years.
mentality switch that needs to change to be like, hey, I'm what, 6'9" with a great handle, can shoot over anybody, and I'm pretty strong. Like, I would say that I can get to the basket on 98% of
Dude,
NBA
he's
players.
huge.
You
Like
know,
his
like,
shoulder, he is a large man. Like
exactly.
he used to when he came into the league, like the first years or something, whatever. Like he was dunking on people. He dunked
Yeah.
on LeBron James. Like he was dunking on dudes. He was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really trying to prove himself. And at some point, it just like didn't. It
And
just
then he went the other way.
it
He
went
went
the
the
other
wrong way.
way.
He
And
went the wrong way.
so
And
it's
so,
like getting to the rim. I'm sorry, but like getting to the
no, no, no.
rim and being aggressive and attacking, and then also like the in between game and how much that lacks, and just not having a consistent like go to move or like operating from the post. Like even Bill Simmons talks about this too, but like operating from the post more, like really being that guy and having that in between game and being consistent there. Like in the 2022 finals, he like struggled with that. You can see that,
Yeah.
and then he improved on that, but also but now I just feel like he took a step back and he's just not doing it at that same level anymore. So it's just like settling or getting to the rim, or sometimes even being indecisive when you get to the rim. So it's just
Mhm.
like I don't know. His playmaking has taken a lot of strides. He's a great passer. He runs point for him sometimes. He does a great job there. He has a lot of amazing moments being a defender. Like even then, like the Mavs have been putting him in actions all the time. Like
Yeah.
of course, like you're trying to attack him and get him tired and take away from his offensive game. But it's just like something's missing for me. I don't know what
No,
it is.
I think he holds up. Like, I think he's a good defender. I think he's a willing passer. I think he's a good passer. I think he tries hard on the boards. Like, he has everything there but the efficiency, right? And so like, I think the next level in his game, if it comes, is just learning like where his spots are and like really dissecting what he does well on an NBA court and like putting that to use on a nightly basis, regardless of how the game's going. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time he can kind of like dribble, all the shot clocks at 6. Oh, step back. Like, I think
Yeah.
like instead of that, let's get into your actions a bit quicker. Let's
Yeah.
move with some purpose, like let's not just dribble to dribble. Let's dribble to get somewhere. And so like I think that's kind of where his next step comes.
Yeah, and sometimes some of that comes, I think, with like where, what is the offense doing and what do they prioritize? Because and it goes back to your point too, like they prioritize shooting 3-pointers. So
Yeah.
like it might be a little encouraged to him to shoot more 3-pointers, and sometimes that's not catch and shoot, especially when he's running offense. It's going to be step back three, side step
Yeah.
three. So
Yeah.
it's just like even taking some of the offense out of his hands and trying to find ways to put him in positions to be in the high post, be in the low block, be what is it? I'm trying to use some mind the game terminology.
Oh, you're cooking.
Be at the nail,
Nail.
the
Yeah, you're
nail.
cooking.
So it's just like how can our team put him in position to succeed, but also like can he change his mentality a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Just because you can shoot over everybody doesn't mean you should. So, so that kind of that those are kind of our three takeaways from the NBA playoffs thus far. The next thing we wanted to dive into, I just kind of like looking at the landscape of the league, which we've talked about a lot. I just kind of wanted to talk about two teams we think are going to take a leap next season. And so I'll kind of start it off. For me, I've touched on this before. I'm a big Orlando Magic guy. I really, really like what the Magic can build this offseason. Um, they pushed the Cavs to game seven in their first real playoff run. Paolo's second year in the league. He led them in minutes, points, rebounds. He was second in assists. No player on that team this playoffs averaged more than 4.4 assists. And Paolo and Jalen Suggs were the only two players to make 2+3s a game. So like as a team this year, they had very clear deficiencies. They were the third worst 3-point shooting team in the playoffs. They averaged the least amount of playoffs in the assists. I mean, amount of assists in the amount of playoffs in the assists, amount of assists in the playoffs this postseason. And so like going into next season, I think that makes what their needs are very clear, right? Like they need a facilitator, they need a true point guard who can take the ball out of Paolo's hands sometimes, who can take the ball out of Franz Wagner's hands sometimes, and really put something together and like really facilitate something. And they also need shooting. They have the 18th and the 47th pick in this year's draft. They can have up to 44 million in cap space. And like they have ways to improve. They have their first in each of the next 7 years. And they have the Nuggets first in 2025, and they have 12 first-round picks to trade. Shout out to the Aaron Gordon trade. And so yeah, they have a lot of ways to improve, and they're building on a really solid foundation, right? Like I think they should be the team to trade for Trae Young. Like if Trae Young is available, I think he slots in so beautifully there next to Paolo, and that like he's a guy that can get you 12 assists a game, easy. Like he's one of the best passers in the league, and while he isn't the most efficient shooter, teams fear him from beyond the arc, right? Like I think the like a common NBA misconception is that like Trae Young is this like Steph Curry light clone when it comes to shooting. And like, hey, he takes a lot of threes. He doesn't make a lot of threes. And so, but regardless, he's a guy that teams fear. And it's about the gravity. Like, it's, even if you're not making them, if teams are guarding you out there, you're getting the job done. And so, like, for me, I think Trae Young is their number one option this offseason. I look at it in kind of like a 3-level plan, like kind of like a evolution, like a Charizard to Charmander to, or you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
not a
something you're saying.
Pokemon guy, but like a little evolution
I've
vibe.
seen the meme. I know what you're
The
saying.
meme. What's the little one? What's the littlest one?
I have no idea. I don't remember
Oh,
at
you're
all.
not a Pokemon guy
Not
either? Oh
like
my
that. Nah,
God.
I
Jesus
was on
Christ.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
I was a Digimon guy, bro. Hold on. See, now I got to get it right. The little Charmander evolution. It goes from like Charizard to Charmeleon to all right, so Charmander to Charmeleon to Charizard. Beautiful. That's kind of what I look at it as, right? Like I think Trae Young is their number one level that they can get this offseason. I think a level below that is D'Angelo Russell. I think he is also a willing passer. I think he's a better shooter than Trae Young. And I think he fits in well there. And then third, I think if they miss out on those two, a guy that also brings kind of that same build of like assets to the team is Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is a very willing passer. He's a free agent this offseason. He started 66 games last year for the first time in his career. He averaged 7 assists. He shot over 40% from three on, I want to say, like 3.8 attempts a game. Like he's a capable shooter, a willing passer. He was slotting well there. He's not a high volume shooter guy. So Paolo's still going to be able to take a lot of shots. Whereas like in a guy like Trae Young or D'Lo, you're obviously going to have to concede some shots to them. But like I think Tyus Jones, if they go out and get him, like that's a very underrated move for the Magic that I would love. And I think when you look at the East, like there's not really a dominant team outside of the Celtics, right? Like I think outside of the Celtics, the Magic can vault their way into that kind of like Knicks Bucks tier of second best team. I think they can be better than the Cavs, the Pacers, the 76ers, the Heat. And so like I think a guy like Tyus, Trae Young, D'Lo, bolsters their roster enough to get into that next tier. And I really think that they could be the Thunder of next year for the Eastern Conference. So I'm really bullish on the Magic next season.
I don't know if D'Lo gets into that bolstered
Oh,
part
come
you're
on,
talking
don't do
about.
this to
I
me.
really don't know if that's a thing.
Come on, a
I
little
don't.
40% from three,
I don't
giving out
know.
like 6-7 assists a game.
I don't know if that does it. I just always go back to the playoffs when it comes to it. That's fine.
Oh, whoa, what are you, that's crazy. I mean, hey, he's not a 16 game player, but he gets you a good 82. He's good in them
That's
82.
crazy. Oh, what? That's it's not. Well, if that's your goal, then great. He's awesome.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
our goal is to make the Magic. I'm saying goal is to make the second round, right? I think D'Lo gets them to a second round. I think with D'Lo next season, they can be one of the top three teams in the East.
no.
I would
I'm
take the
sorry.
Celtics, the I would take the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Magic.
You
The Bucks, I
Celtic.
think they could be better than the Bucks.
Mm, I even no Giannis. Even still, just with Giannis how
Mm.
they are right now, probably
They got
still the
Paolo,
Bucks.
baby. Paolo's he's
I
coming.
love Pal. I love
He's
Paolo.
on his
He's
way.
probably like I think he's next up for me. Like it's LeBron, and I think it's about to be Paolo. I'm not
There
playing
we
with
go.
you,
That's what I like to hear. Even though
but
I
like
tweeted Evan Mobley had him in hell for one possession, and you and Justice thought I was calling him horrible.
that's not all that she said. Anyways, what Sixers, Knicks, Celtics, right?
I would take them over the Sixers. I like the Knicks a lot. I think the
I
Knicks are probably the second best team in the East.
I just don't think the Sixers are done with the
They have a lot
move.
of cap space. They can get another.
Yeah,
There's
like
just not a
this,
lot of guys they can get this offseason. Free
right?
agent wise, right? Like they could
Yeah,
trade for somebody.
but the Sixers can do some stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, with like that in mind, maybe. But I don't like top five for sure
Yeah, I think
for
top
Magic.
five is the floor. I think top five, I think they're easy top five. I think for me, top three is what I kind of see them as. Outside of,
Well, you're saying that with D'Lo, right? But like, I don't know if
yeah,
D'Lo
with D'Lo,
fixes. Not
I think
even.
D'Lo fixes a lot for them. They were the worst 3-point shooting team in the league last year. D'Lo was giving you 4 a game, 3 a game.
Yeah,
Like
in the regular
they were
season,
starting,
gosh,
Cole Anthony and Markel Fultz.
it's tough.
Like,
I
you
I
know,
I also wrote down the Magic though. I love Paolo so much. It was disgusting to see what their offense was though. By the time we got to the playoffs and what that looked like, and I don't know what happened to Franz. And again, I didn't watch the entire season, so like I just couldn't. I didn't see that. I didn't. I just wasn't able to track. What all happened. I know he was. He was. I know, but the season before that, he was a really good Uh, catch and shoot guy. Like he was really great at getting to the rim. Still struggled with like shooting off the dribble, like especially from the 3-point line, that type of way. But like I don't know what happened to him this past season and what that looked like. But he just really just left Moncaro out there on his own to really do anything. And the defense
yeah,
is
he
really
struggled to
good.
score. He was kind of focused on facilitating because they really didn't have a point guard. Like they
Yeah,
really didn't have a point guard. So like he had to do a lot of the facilitating when it wasn't Paolo. And to ask Paolo to go defend their best guy, go rebound, go facilitate,
that
go score. It's like
that brother's a dog, man.
yeah,
It's a,
he's
before Victor, I'm throwing myself under the bus here, but before Victor like took off the way he did, like I had Paolo over Victor as far as like my guys to take for the next however many years if like I'm building a team, under a certain age, of course,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I think I have Paolo and then Victor. Of course, that's changed a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
like that's just saying how much I thought of Paolo, especially during the season and who he is and really what he I feel like I didn't see when I was doing my draft analysis on him and stuff. Like he's so good, man.
Yeah.
He's so
He
good.
definitely made strides in year 2, right? And like I want him to he's gonna get even better in year 3. I think he averaged 22 per game this season. In the playoffs, he averaged 27. Like
The the
he can,
facilitating
you know,
Naj is real.
yeah. And
Like
he has to do that. Like they forced him into that, and he like adapted and learned how to do it.
like reads, like he can pass the ball. Like he is a very skilled passer. Like it's just impressive. He still has ways to go with efficiency and I think dribbling maybe and just a little bit of that and shooting of course. But like I love Paolo. I think so. I had the Magic written down for one of my teams, but I also wrote down the Knicks as a team for
Mm,
me. Of course, like the Knicks had a great season, and it's awesome to see the Knicks where they are. It's a team that you easily want to root for. I'm not sure where they go with the roster and what it looks like. Of course, like in the past years, they've always talked about trading like a Julius Randle and trying to acquire another player. They always want to throw out Donovan Mitchell for another guy they bring in with Jalen Brunson, which looks a little weird. But now there's a lot of reports of Mitchell re-signing an
they
extension with
talked about Mitchell. They talked about Cat, Mikal Bridges to complete
yeah.
the
So yeah,
Villanova. You know,
right. So like, I don't know where their roster goes from here. They still have some assets that they can look into, but like when it goes down to it, like I love what the Knicks have built, and I think they have the right coach in place for the most part. I think they have a lot of great pieces. Jalen Brunson has taken off further than anyone could have ever imagined. You know, being the savior of the New York Knicks and what he's done there. And if that team is healthy, I think we have a different Eastern Conference and a little bit as far as just like entertainment and really
mm-hmm.
maybe challenging the Boston Celtics a little bit. But I do love that team. I love how they play. I wish they didn't get hurt like they did. I wish Tom Thibodeau probably didn't play players like he did
Play
as
him
far as
90 minutes a game
yeah.
in February.
Yeah, like the OG trade was phenomenal for them and really, took them to a whole different level, I feel like, and just like really helped them out. And Josh Hart is huge. DiVincenzo is big for them. They have a lot of good pieces, so they really they were missing like a Julius Randle and some depth and health. So
No, I love the Knicks. I think fully healthy, they were the second best team in the league. I think they were the only team in the East that could have really given the Celtics problems. Like fully healthy, both of those teams. I think Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein. Like I think they really could have given them a run for their money.
see, and
So
then he might be gone even then, Hartenstein, which is
Hartenstein might be gone. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's even tough. So like I don't know where they go, but I do like the foundation they do have with the
Yeah,
roster.
100%. I really like the Knicks going into next season. My second team was the Grizzlies. I think the Spurs are an easy answer, obviously, because they have a generational guy. But like, I think a lot of people are kind of souring on the Grizzlies, but they were coming off a 56 and a 51 win seasons before this year. They still have who I think can be a top 10 player in the league in Ja Morant, who will be extremely motivated coming into next season. They still have a guy who was DPOY last season in Jaren Jackson, one of the better shooters in the league in Desmond Bain. And I know Marcus Smart gets a bad rap, but they do have an elite perimeter guy in Marcus Smart. And I like that team. Like I think a lot of people write them off for the Wolves, like because I think like the Wolves are kind of that new team. They have Anthony Edwards, they have Cat, they have Jaden McDaniels, but like the Grizzlies were kind of that team before the Wolves, and they kind of got derailed a little bit. And so I'm excited to see what the Grizzlies come back and do. Like I think they can get better. I think they have a good coach. I think they have a good solid base. They've had playoff experience before. And I just love me some John Morant, and I'm excited to see. Like, I think him versus Ant Edwards would be an immaculate series. Like Wolves Grizzlies would be an incredible series. Just because like they're both not really media trained, and that's the great part of it. And like they just will say whatever they want, and like I appreciate athletes that like still try and be themselves. Even though being himself got John into a little bit of a mess, but like be yourself, but like be cool though. So like
Be cool.
I'm excited to see how that kind of goes into next season. I think that'll be a series that a lot of people are excited about. So yeah, the Grizzlies were kind of my second team. I expect to take a leap next year.
I almost wrote down the Grizzlies,
Mm,
and then I just didn't. Honestly,
damn.
that's
See,
pretty much it. I didn't write down the Grizzlies though, but they were on my mind. If that helps anything, I probably wrote down another obvious team. So like leaps are like it's so specific towards the team, and it's really what you mean. But like, you know, the Knicks got decently far in the playoffs, and the Thunder got decently far in the playoffs. You know, but there's so much more for them to go, and so many more leaps for them to take. Even though they took a astronomical leap, even in this season. What the Thunder? What the second seed, right? If I'm not mistaken, right?
There was one seed.
One seed. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'm just being an idiot. But like, yeah. So like the Thunder being a one seed, like that's crazy. So like, how can they take a leap? That's my team, by the way, that I'm picking. So how can they take another
Okay.
leap? But I'm thinking about the team within itself, and even some of the individual players and like leaps they can take to get them to the next level, even that point. So like, the one seed does not mean pretty much anything in the playoffs to me specifically. It may vary from year to year, but when you get to the Western Conference final, or the Western Conference, like it's tough. It's a tough conference. It's like the one seed. It's great to play. I get it's good to play an 8 seed, but also it's like you never know the 8 seed is going to be. Could have been the
Yeah.
Lakers, which is a terrible matchup
I
for
want to say we went 4-0 versus them this season.
yeah,
So
so that's a terrible matchup for the Thunder. So like, what is the if they would have drawn the Lakers, what does that really matter at that point?
we would have been in the second round,
It
baby.
would have been the second round, right? So like, so in my eyes, it just doesn't matter that much. It matters, really about the specific growth that team needs to take. So when they should have traded for a big at the deadline and traded for Gordon Hayward, like I'm not sure that how that's really gonna help you when it comes down to like the holes and the weaknesses on your team and needing more depth, especially when it comes to that front court. And then also, now after we've gotten out of the playoffs, needing to see J Dub take a huge jump, to help support Shea and be a confident player and really bring more to the offensive end as well too. And then Chet, I don't know what Chet is going to turn into. Sky's the limit when it comes to him and the type of ability he has and what he can offer, especially with that skill set and that body and really being able to dominate in certain areas, being an amazing defender within himself too. So like that team has so many different ways it can go. They can make different moves and they have the assets. So I'm excited about a team like that. Of course, you got a top 5 guy in SGA. So, what leaps can the other guys take and what can you do roster wise to get your team to that next leap, even if you were just a one seed?
yeah, I'm excited about them. I kind of look at them in the same way I look at the Nuggets, and that like a lot of their guys, or at least their top 3 guys, are homegrown, right? Like Shea can be there, Jokic, J Dub can be there, Jamal Murray and Chet can be there, Michael Porter Jr. And that like that's their core of guys that they've built from the bottom up. Oh well, I guess Shea wasn't homegrown because he was a Clipper, but like
Eh,
his like transformation into being this guy came as a member of the Thunder.
right,
Shout
exactly.
out to the Paul George trade. And so yeah, like I think those can be their guys, and I still consider him homegrown because like they built him into who he is today. And they can just kind of go around that. And I think the Thunder are going to be a mainstay in like that top 3 seed of the West, barring injury, for then a long time to come in the next couple of years. So I definitely think the Thunder can definitely take a leap moving forward as well. And you mentioned the Lakers, which brings us to our last topic. I want to know your thoughts. Obviously, the Lakers have been in the news a lot lately. We got played for Dan Hurley. Thought we were going to get UConn's head coach. Looked pathetic in the process. And now things have been back to JJ Redick, James Borrego. Who knows? I just want to know, what are your thoughts on the whole Lakers head coach situation? They said maybe we won't. We're okay. We're not having a coach by the draft. Okay, sure. But yeah, just your pure thoughts on whatever Lakers you got.
Yeah, so you and I texted about it a little bit. Like, I still view the Lakers job as like the biggest job in the NBA. Like, it's like the
In
best.
basketball.
Yeah, like it's it's the best job you can have, but also not the best job you can have for different reasons. So
It's
it's
the
like,
best job you can have if you're good at
yeah,
it.
if you're good at it, which a lot of people recently have not been good at it, obviously. So it's just like the historical and significance of being a Laker or coaching the Lakers. What that means to a legacy and actually bringing championships to a Lakers team. Well, I say that, but then like Frank Vogel was gone in like 2 years
Two
after he
years.
won. So so that I guess I
Tough,
don't know
tough look.
say I guess it says something about how people feel about the 2020 finals anyways.
Jesus
I know it's
Christ.
tough,
They're
bro.
just catching
I
strays.
Hey, I'm a LeBron fan. I'm just saying it's how people feel about it. I'm fine.
That's fair.
I think it's a chip. Um, but like going back to it, like I just think that's like if I'm like doing a my player in 2K, like the Lakers are like a team I'm gonna consider. Like it's
Yeah.
just how like I just see the Lakers jersey. Of course, like things have changed, and it's not always been great with the Lakers. You know, they're not even it's not even Staples Center anymore. Like things have changed, but like that's still a great job to have because of some of those factors. Now, when you get down to, I think you've tweeted about this a lot, like some of their um, front office and how that's structured and different you know things they have in play for like coaching staff and like what other resources they have, like, it does not seem like a great situation. You know, even when you get down to maybe like who's in charge. You have Palinka and you have Genie and all that type of stuff. Like it may not be the greatest infrastructure that way to be able to succeed. And you look at the roster within itself, you have an aging LeBron. Of course, AD is coming off a really great year, a very healthy year, even at that point. But even he has some of his limitations, and the roster is really in a weird spot right now. You don't really know where it's gonna go. D'Lo might be out, and going to a new team. Reeves is always in trade rumors now. Rui, all those guys. So like it's a weird spot when you look at it that way. When you actually look at the team and like what is there for you as far as organizational support and resources. But when it comes down to the Lakers, it's the Lakers. So that's also how I think about it too. So I like it's weird. I don't blame him
Yeah.
for saying no, but also like he should. I think there was some seriousness kinda behind actually going through with it and like seeing, but also they didn't give him a very serious offer even in that case too. So like, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I think in terms of like the job, like I think the job should still be well regarded, right? Like even though we like it's a hard job, right? Like it's a very hard job where you're held to these massive standards, especially with LeBron. Like you win a chip, you get fired 2 years later. You make the Western Conference Finals and make the playoffs again, and you have a positive record as a coach in Darvin Ham, you still get fired. And so it's like, damn, what is it? Do I just gotta win constant chips to keep the job? But it's like I think there's different little intricacies in why Darvin Ham got fired. There's a
Yeah,
reason Frank Vogel got fired. Like they lost the locker room at the end of their tenure. And like once you lose the locker room as a coach, like you have no choice but to really fire them. In terms of Dan Hurley, like I think two things can be true. Another thing that I hate about Lakers Twitter is that like they only deal in absolutes. Like two things can be true in that, hey, should the Lakers have come out and given a more competitive offer out the gate to Dan Hurley simply out of need. Because, like, hey, if Dan Hurley doesn't take this job, you're stuck with JJ Redick. Yes. I personally would have been like, yo, give him a blank check. If you want 100 mil, cool. People are mad that he would have been the sixth highest paid coach. We can't make him the number one paid coach. Who cares? Why can't we make him the number one paid coach? Why? That doesn't have anything to do with our salary cap. That is pure genie bus out of her wallet. I do not care about how much our coach gets paid. It does not impact how we build the roster. So saying that we can't make him the highest paid coach on the team on in the NBA, who cares? I don't. If he wants 15 mil a year, I don't give a fuck. Give him whatever he needs to be on the team. Yeah, I agree with that. Also, hey, if Dan Hurley wanted to be the Lakers head coach, he'd be the Lakers head coach. Like if he came back and said, I don't like that 70 mil, but I would take the job for 100, he'd be the Lakers head coach. He said, you know what? He took the meeting on Friday. They offered the 70 mil. He left them in the dark for 2 days. And then on Monday said, I'm good. Like there was no negotiation there. He never gave them a counter. That's how negotiations work. If he wanted to be our head coach, he would have said, I'm not down for the 70, but I will take the job for 95. And at that point, it's up to us to be like, yes or no. I think we would have said yes, but he wasn't down to negotiate. He wanted to be UConn's head coach, bro. Like as simple as that. I don't
yeah,
think he was as willing to be our head coach as Woj made it sound. I think there was a lot of media games going on. I think if you want to know what my real opinion is, I think that Woj works for ESPN. JJ Redick works for ESPN. JJ Redick is calling the finals. I don't necessarily think that ESPN was cool with all of this media stuff coming out saying JJ Redick is going to dip on this job to go take the Lakers job. So you know what he did? Hey, I got a friend in Dan Hurley that would be a great fit for the Lakers job. Let me put this report out, even though Dan Hurley has never, ever been talked about, and to get the heat off JJ Redick. Cool, that works. No one gives a fuck about JJ Redick for 3 days, calling the finals. And then all of a sudden, Dan Hurley goes back to UConn, and guess who's taking a meeting with the Lakers after game 4 when the Mavs get swept? JJ Redick. So, like, that's what it is. That's all it was, bro. And so, like, I think it was a bunch of media games. I think that the front office is horribly ran. I think Rob Pelinka is not the greatest GM. I think Jeannie Buss should probably sell the team to somebody with more money. That's not going to happen because she obviously cares about the legacy of her pops, which I think is fair, right? But like, if you're going to care about the legacy of your pops, you have to be willing to spend some bread. Like, and granted, in terms of net worth, she's one of the poorer owners in the league. Like, she's obviously rich compared to us, but like in terms of like NBA owners, I want to say she's like bottom 3 in terms of net worth. Whereas like a guy like Steve Ballmer, he's like 5 NBA owners richer than every other NBA owner. And so like he was willing to pay whatever to keep Ty Lue. And so, yeah, I think a lot of front office stuff needs to be done. I think not having a coach by the draft is insane. Like, what team says, yeah, if we don't got a coach by the NBA draft, that's A-okay. What are we talking about? Like, you have the 17th pick, and you're saying, yeah, we don't have a. How do you know? You don't. It's not that you don't have a coach. You don't have an entire coaching staff. How are you going to draft a player and not know what scheme you're going to run? Like, what are we saying? We don't have a coach by the draft? And what plays are you running? How do we know that player that you draft is going to fit the scheme that you're running? And so, yeah, that's my little Lakers rant. I could keep going on for days about it. It's absolutely insane that this is where we are. But JJ Redick will be our coach by the end of the weekend if the Mavs.
I can't wait. I'm a believer. Naj. I'm a believer.
I would rather have JJ Redick than James Borrego. Like, I'd rather take the ceiling of what JJ Redick is, right? Like, he could be really good. I know James Borrego's not good. You know, like, I know James Borrego's not good, so I'd rather take the ceiling that JJ Redick has. That's going to be absolutely insane. Podcast.
I can't wait.
Podcast with LeBron. We're discussing end of game schemes on the pod. What are we doing? But yeah, that's going to be our head coach.
Winsworth said like his interviews was the podcast he had with LeBron.
That's crazy.
Those were his interviews.
That's insane. Like, what franchises run like this? Like, this is not correct.
He's a genius. What do you want, man?
Yeah, my bad, JJ.
I mean, there are certain things that you know you're gonna get out of JJ Redick. He's gonna work. Like, he is a freak. Like, he's gonna work tirelessly.
100%.
Hopefully be good at his job. He knows basketball. He does have some type of aura to him. He is well spoken. He really does. He's super confident. He can have those player relationships. He's been in the league before. He can understand the player, the player mindset from that way. And like, there's a lot of good to JJ Redick. It's just the lack of coaching experience and only coaching his little league team. So
yeah, right. And like, if we weren't in a position where we were trying to win now and like maximize LeBron's, like, we have the most win now player ever. So like, to hire a coach that we don't necessarily know is good, I think is tough. But like, I would love JJ Redick in the post LeBron era. You know, like, I would love to take a shot on JJ Redick after we're done with the LeBron stuff. But like, knowing that we're trying to win a chip, like, for every single year that LeBron is on our team, I think it's tough to be like, hey, JJ, you've never been a head coach. Come win a chip in 2 years. So I don't know.
Also, he's 40 and you just said he's a win now player. That's nuts.
It's crazy. That's why he's
crazy.
The GOAT. That's why he's the GOAT. You know, that's the GOAT, baby.
40 and he's still a win now
longevity,
player.
My boy.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so that is going to be this episode of the Run It Up podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Before we head out of here, make sure you guys subscribe to the pod on YouTube. Follow us on basically every podcast platform that you are listening to this on. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Follow us on Twitter at Run It Up Pod. You can find me on Twitter at @NajeeAdams_. Khalil on Twitter at below 44 and
Sure.
Justice on Twitter at JReed_. It'll all be in the description down below. So just go and click the links. And yeah, without further ado, I hope you guys have a litty day, a litty night, a litty life. And just like we do in every episode of this podcast, make sure y'all go run it up.
Run it up.